Today we will take a high-level look at the political philosophy of communitarianism. As the name implies, it emphasizes the importance of community over the individual. I'll be doing all of the talking today since my usually helpful and loquacious AI assistant, Matt, had hallucinations after last week's discussion of populism and went to Florida to fish for sprats or something like that. While the idea of communitarianism has been around for thousands of years, it's mainly been in the context of family and tribal groups, and, to a lesser extent, ancient city-states. In the 20th century, some political philosophers asserted that classic liberal philosophy was too focused on the individual and neglected the moral and political shared values, traditions, and judgments of the communities in which we live. Oddly enough, this concept found supporters from the political left and right, from those who proclaim that it takes a village to those who say that we need to restore traditional religious values. However, most prefer not to use the label of communitarianism since the term is often seen as being associated with authoritarian suppression of individual liberties in some way. Is this association deserved? Let's consider some of the core ideas of this philosophy and see. Communitarianism champions the idea that a person's socio-political identity is primarily determined by their community. Therefore, supporters of the idea argue that a person's community is more important than the rights of individuals. They see individual rights as not absolute, but should be only considered within the context of communal values and responsibilities. Rights should be exercised in a way that contributes to the well-being of the community, rather than undermining it. But communitarianism doesn't completely discard the idea of individual rights. Instead, it seeks finding a proper balance between the rights of individuals and communal obligations. This involves a sense of reciprocity, where individuals are supported by the community and, in turn, contribute to its well-being. At its core, communitarianism is concerned about the potential for excessive individualism leading to a state of anomie, of social disintegration. They see anomie as undermining socio-political stability by eroding social cohesion and trust in institutions. To prevent this situation, some call for the restoration of traditional values. Others call for creating new core community values or to evolve old ones so that they better reflect the people in a community. In either case, communitarians reject the classical liberal notion of the individual as an isolated, rational, and even heroic actor. In contrast, they argue that political decisions should be made with the common good of the community in mind, rather than giving into individual preferences. They further argue that individuals have a responsibility to actively participate in their communities and contribute to the common good instead of selfishly pursuing their own agenda. Supporters of the idea believe that the concept offers an alternative vision to today's political landscape that's increasingly characterized by runaway individualism, social fragmentation, and political polarization. They believe that it can serve to inspire efforts to rebuild and strengthen communities by promoting social interaction, shared values, and civic engagement. In this way, some form of communitarianism can help to bridge social divides and foster a stronger sense of unity and belonging. So now let's take a look at criticisms of the communitarianism concept. Perhaps the most common criticism is that the concept is too vague because it can encompass support of any idea that takes issue with individualism. Because modern societies are so large, fragmented, and diverse, it can be difficult to define shared community values. Community rules that work well for one group may not be acceptable for others. Some see it as a form of moral relativism, since it prioritizes the values of a particular community over universal and absolute principles of justice. Perhaps the biggest issue is that such a heavy emphasis on conformity to community values in the name of the common good can lead to forms of authoritarianism. So, does communitarianism have any support among the American public? Several surveys have found that about 20% of the public support communitarian ideas in some way, primarily placing their specific community values over the rights of the individual. Can this concept work in a diverse and multicultural nation like the United States? I don't see it myself, although it can work on a voluntary basis on a small scale within individual communities. What are your thoughts on this political philosophy concept? Do you think it's a viable idea for modern nation states, or is it more applicable to tiny communities? Let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe to find out what Matt discovered on his fishing expedition.